Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a team report that I've been really excited to share for a really long time and a very special guest to share it. Please welcome Nick Navarre. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for coming on. And can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I gave an intro last time I was on the channel, but I've been playing VGC since post Worlds 2015. Been playing competitive Pokemon overall since 2010, but that was on Smogon. Since I've started playing VGC, I've made top 8 in NA and qualified for Day 2 Worlds twice. I finished the 2017 season first place in North America, and I've won a couple regionals and cut a couple internets, and I've got a bunch of other top 4 regionals.
Yeah, if you've been playing, especially if you played in Gen 7, you have definitely either seen Nails, heard of Nails, probably been to an event because he's been to like every event, at least those couple years. And how did you finish in Players Cup?
I got top 6. I just barely missed the prizing, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I had a blast. I went undefeated through the regional portion of the bracket, and I lost to the same person twice in globals.
Yeah, and you can watch a bunch of the games from this really incredible run through the tournaments on the official Pokemon stream, I think both on YouTube and on Twitch. But I really want to get into the team itself because it's been months and months. It's the culmination of months and months of work. It has so many cool tech choices. I was looking at like the VGC subreddit, and everyone was like really like enthused and like kind of stunned by all the different choices on the team. But first, can you tell me a little bit about the origins of this team?
Okay, so this is a team that we came up with in the middle of Series 5. We ran into somebody on the ladder playing with the core of Screens Grimmsnarl, Bind Dusclops, and Gmax Venusaur. And there was a group of us that were laddering late at night. And as soon as I saw it, I went, yo, wait, that's sick. We're using that. And so Raghav made this version, which had the basic premise of the team is you set up screens, you set up Vine Lash, you say that none of their Pokemon are going to do damage to any of your Mons, and you're just going to chip them down with residual damage until you win the game. So it has this version of the team has Sand, it has Vine Lash, it has Bind, it has Yawn and Burning Jealousy. Like the defensive Torkoal really just doesn't take damage from many things. The Gigalith is really tough to out. It's just a really defensive team that consistently applies pressure. And basically, we murdered ladder with it. I'm pretty sure it had the highest GXC that anyone had at any point on the 2020 ladder. We got to 85.7, I think, which is just like a few points higher than anyone tended to be, at least.
Yeah, and I remember you guys found this team right after the North American stage of Players Cup. I think even before the official Players Cup. And I remember we were talking about how if any of our building group had actually qualified for Players Cup, 2 of us finished in top 6 in North America that time.
We were giving this team to that person, and they were going to win the tournament. I think it just kind of blew everything out. It was so phenomenal in Series 5. I think it was the peak of the format. We didn't never have anything to use it on, so it just stayed in the vault.
That was what I think one of the things that really made me sad actually about the switch to Series 6 was that Series 5, you had that one big Players Cup that happened basically like 3 weeks into the format where it was like still very much in the developmental stage. And then people still came up with really cool teams like this one. And we never got to see the metagame develop and all of the the ways that people would react to what the Players Cup showed off, and so the metagame had a lot of room to grow. And I think this team was only, I think Raghav and Chemo used it in the Rose Tower Invitational, and Chemo made it to the final stage, but didn't actually do too well in the final stage. But that was like the only time anyone ever got to use it, which kind of sucked because it really could have won like a tournament if we had the chance.
Yeah, no. We also had a bunch of people play the team in the qualifiers for like the IC qualifiers for the Players Cup too. But that's the most exposure it got.
And remind me, how did you do in the IC? What place did you get in North America?
Oh, that's an excellent point. I think it was 28th, which was barely it was just under the cutoff for a bye when the Players Cup 2 bracket came out, but after the repair, because people didn't submit their teams or didn't sign up or something like that, I got pushed over the line and got a bye. So that was really nice, especially because of the way that double elimination works, where getting sent to losers is really terrible. Buys are just really great. They're so broken.
Yeah, this is where I gotta shout out my boy Sohaib for getting to sign up for Players Cup with his like 15th rank in North America and giving Nick a bye.
Thanks, yeah, thanks, Sohaib.
And so this was the version on screen is the version that we built in Series 5 that was tearing up the Series 5 metagame, and then of course Series 6 not very applicable. A lot of these Pokemon
I didn't really play Series 6. It was it didn't look too hot. I'm gonna be real.
I can attest to the fact that Sun was also broken in Series 6, but then Series 7 came around and we had so many new toys. Tell me about the 2 weeks between Crown Tundra being released and having to lock in your team for Players Cup.
Sure. So we instantly we still had the team. It was always the fallback plan. Like everyone in the building group tried to build stuff. Like we pretty early on identified that Regieleki was good, Urshifu was good, Kartana was good. Like just some of the staples that were good mons were good, and tried to build with them, but nothing really felt as solid as this team that was just like already set and ready made, and we knew that it fit together really, really well, and its game plans were just fundamentally very strong. And so with about a week to go, nothing that I had made and it's a team that I also had a ton of experience on, and just there were a bunch of factors that made it a really safe call, and I just wanted to rock up to the Players Cup with it. We did make edits to it. We were not playing Iron Defense Gigalith anymore because they solved they basically they just printed a new win con for the team that just fit perfectly. The team was ready made to support Glastrier modes. Glastrier loves screens. I don't think Life Orb is especially good on Glastrier because I don't think it wants to max all of the time. And so the fact that the team already had a really strong Life Orb user was nice. White Herb is a choice that not a lot of other people have really picked up on yet. I think it is probably better on this team than on a lot of other teams, but I think it's still just a really fundamentally strong item on Glastrier. It's how this team functions is it generally just wants to ensure that it's winning damage trades as hard as possible, and White Herb enables that. lets you say they can't like switch Intimidate, they can't switch Instant or Lando into the Glastrier because you just white herb it and put the right max move into the slot, into the switch in, and the game gets blown open. You've won the game basically by making one pretty straightforward play. It also lets you click close combat and not drop your defenses, which is really huge. It means you don't have to risk accuracy, which is just generally it's nice for securing endgames, and just like close combat's a really strong move, and being able to click it without fearing for your defenses is great.
Yeah, it's like this is an item that you noticed basically right at the beginning, like you said, like a week into the metagame, and people still really haven't picked up on. People are still very surprised when they see it, but like obviously there is some merit to Assault Vest. The weakness policy set was very popular, and then people realized that I think it like having to waste a turn with your Dusclops, proccing your own weakness policy isn't actually that great a use of a turn. Even though your Glastrier gets really big, it just already does so much that you can be more productive with that time, and it's also a little win more in that if you're getting that much free time and that much momentum, then you've probably already won the game or can win the game in many different ways. And then, like you said, the Life Orb is definitely a choice.
Life Orb is good, and it goes specifically with Haze Dusclops. And I think that combination is also good. It just forces you from team preview to max the Glastrier, or you're going to be chipping yourself too much for my comfort.
Yeah, and so the white herb is so good because of its ability to it's counterplay to the very common Glastrier counterplay, which is Incineroar. And then, like you said, the synergy with close combat was like what really blew my mind when you explained it to me, and I was like, "This is crazy! This is so good." But I remember in your last video with John when we were talking about his team that got top 6 in the North American Players Cup 1. We were talking a lot about team building early in the format, and one of the things you really harped on was the fact that you don't have to build the best team; you just have to build a team that's better than everyone else's team. And in this case, everyone else's Glastrier answer. You identified the Glastrier was crazy good. I think most people did. And then you also identified how people were going to try to beat Glastrier and just made it so your Glastrier didn't lose to that. And that just made it, such a powerhouse.
Yeah, no, it doesn't go away. You can't stall it out with Life Orb and then get a hit in at the end. You can't trade damage safely with it. You can't really you can't intimidate through it very easily. Or charm it or do any of that. You just have to trade damage with it, and it's hard. I expected to not see that much status because of how common Finny was, and that's another important thing.
Yeah, and Fini was ridiculously common in Players Cup. It's definitely dropped in usage since then, but it was at like 60% usage or something crazy like that, at least in North America. And so, like you couldn't really get burned when every team has a Fini on it, even if yours doesn't. And if they don't have a Fini, then you have Yawn on Torkoal and you have Sleep Powder on Venusaur, and how are they going to react to that?
And I also that is generally the most common ice resist in the format. So if they don't have Finny, Glastrier is probably going to be having a good time. Well, aside from Glastrier itself as an ice resist, I suppose.
And so while we're on the topic of kind of unique choices on this team, the other thing that really stands out is Bind Dusclops. And you talked about this a little bit in the context of Series 5, but can you tell me a little more about why Bind and what it does and how it enables this team?
Okay, so actually I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in Series 5. Like what it did in Series 5, it was just chip damage, which you could use to just get through threats. Like it's a damaging move that hits Porygon too, which is useful because the team can sometimes struggle to punch through it in the endgame after the binds are gone. And Bind plus Body Press sometimes gets it. Bind had a really cool synergy with Yawn. That was the big one in Series 5, where you could just lock stuff in and basically spore things with Torkoal. And that was like very powerful. That like It's just you can basically just lock up board positions with it. Preventing switching is good because it lets you just set up kills for next turn. Um, it gets a lot of utility. We changing gears to Series 7, it synergizes crazy well with Glastrier. Glastrier having Beast Boost as its ability, you just get to set up kills for it. Like if Glastrier can take a kill on one slot while the other slot gets bound in, if it's something that's trying to say pivot in on a Max Quake or pivot on, like basically just people often get stuck into positions where they have to just try to pivot around Glastrier's max moves, and Bind takes away that option. And just like hitting a switch in with Bind can be game winning sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I think that's like one of the most common ways for people to deal with Glastrier, and Dusclops next to it is that Dusclops really doesn't do that much damage. It does very reliable damage, but it doesn't actually pin anything. And so they do have the ability to switch around and not only switch and get intimidates off, which you've also stopped, but the ability to like force you to play mind games. And this turns that off completely.
Yeah. One other thing about it is that given the timing of the team where you set up your screens and tend to set up the Vine Lash early game, they have to deal with the Venusaur because if they don't respond to the Venusaur, it just overpowers them. The Venusaur goes down, Trick Room goes up like around turn 3. Bind really helps the tempo of the team in terms of just making sure that you can end the game before turn 8. That is the point of the game where the screens go down, Trick Rooms go down, and the team's really the power level, like the power point of the team is like turns 1 through 8. And you really need to make sure that your position is good if the game is going to go longer. And Bind just stops that. It really helps lock up games and make sure that you can end them fast enough.
Yeah, and so can you tell me a little bit more about the common game plans, the common leads, and in what scenarios you wanted to bring each Pokemon?
For sure. So about half of the games, roughly, like the autopilot mode, if you're just loading up the team and you don't know what the opposing team is, you're going to go Grimmsnarl, Venusaur lead with Dusclops Glastrier in the back. The game plan is set up Reflector Light Screen and then set up the other one. Drop the Vine Lash on the opposing board, just get as much damage out as possible, and set up a position where you can just clean up with Dusclops and Glastrier. The team is extremely demanding of playing your micro correctly. The damage always, like, there is enough damage, but it has to go in the right places. And something that a lot of people have struggled with is just like, I guess, making small mistakes that get punished. And like I'm not, it really is a team that has a high skill floor. Like we talk about skill caps, but if you're not, there are a lot. If you're making a decent amount of mistakes, the team really doesn't perform up to snuff. Like it's basically the damage has to go in the correct places, or and like this is just something. This is not me trying to like gloat or anything or say that I'm a really great player. It's just it is genuinely something that I've like this team more than any others that I've probably used in VGC is really punishing to mistakes in gameplay. The flip side is that if you don't make mistakes with it and you just your gameplay is clean, that it kind of beats everything because it's just really it has so many stats and it's just the overall team is put together so well. And like credits to Rocco for that.
Yeah, I guess from my I only played VGC 17 for like 3 months, but to me it feels like it uses the same set of skills that made you so good at the VGC 17 format in that you didn't have that much damage in that format. the bulk was really the dominant part, and so you had to be very precise in where you put your damaging moves.
It's very much all about the micro. Just figure out your lines, figure out where the damage needs to go, what you need to preserve, what you need to, where the tempo needs to be, and just like have that all figured out and constantly update your game plans and just think a lot. It requires a lot of thought to play this team well.
Yeah, and so you didn't mention, I guess, Torkoal or Landorus very much in terms of game plans. When did you bring those Pokemon?
Sure. So Torkoal is on the so on the original team. I guess I should mention first that Torkoal and Venusaur very infrequently come together. They do occasionally. On one of my stream games in the globals, I brought the two of them together, but it's like that is the only one that I can remember where I brought both of them together. It is somewhat team preview bait, but they also just both do really good things together, or things for the team independently of each other. Torkoal contests Airstream mons, which are an issue for Venusaur. Burning Jealousy is just very good into anything clicking Airstream, especially on the bulky Torkoal. And it can, it's just like, it can hit a Moongus, which is a problem on for the team. Body Press is just generally good damage output. Basically, it's just a bulky fire type. If we're trying to draw connections to VGC 17, it is very comparable to Arcanine in that it's good into physical mons via having physical bulk instead of Intimidate, but same idea. And Burning Jealousy as well. It's very much not a Venusaur support. It's its own mon, is I guess what I'll say. As for Landorus, Landorus was the 6th mon that we put on the team. Heading into the Series 7 regional qualifiers, it felt very clear that Grimmsnarl, Venusaur, Dusclops, Ice Horse, Torkoal was a very strong core of 5, and figuring out the sixth slot was a problem because the 5 were so strong and it was hard to figure out what they actually needed help with. My decision was basically just to put a fat AV land on the team because maybe it would be useful. Specifically, it was there to check Sun and Colossal. Both of those things could be problematic if you ran into them. And so having fat AV Lando seemed like it would be a good response into some of those things. But aside from that, it was just like a Landorus, and Landorus has a ton of stats and Intimidate and can pivot. It has Stone Edge specifically to hit Rotom Heat. It's to hit Rotom Heat. It's also to just have a move that actually does something. I don't think Rock Slide is a very good move on Landorus. It doesn't have stab on it. So it's just tickling Dynamax mons, and you don't want to be tickling for example, a Moltres with Rock Slide. That ends very, very poorly, very quickly. And so Stone Edge just actually does something to the thing you want to deal damage to.
One of the cool things about this was that you were so willing to reevaluate the roles of Pokemon, and you weren't kind of stuck in the mindset that we've had in the past. And of course, in the past, Landorus had Rock Slide because there was no Dynamax, and so flinching and the ability to flinch so often was really, really valuable. And also, you were doing a lot more damage just because Pokemon couldn't double in HP randomly. But now, a lot of the Pokemon that you want to Rock Slide are, in fact, Dynamaxing, and the utility is a lot less.
Yeah. So as for Fly, it's just it's there partly so that people will respect the fact that I could go Airstream on them. I never actually clicked Airstream in either the regionals or the globals. I maxed Landorus once, I think, and it came to maybe three games, I think, maybe 4. It's definitely the least valuable member, and if you want to toy around with stuff because you want to play the team, you can absolutely replace Landorus with anything else.
Yeah, and that being said, So this is the third different Sun team that we've had a team report on this channel. We had Tommy and Don's Sun team, which had a Charizard instead of a Venusaur, and we also had Jackson Finch's team that got top 12 in North America. And they were all very, very different teams. They all played very differently. But one thing they all had in common was they all had a Landorus on them. And every single person has said that Landorus was their least brought Pokemon. And so I'm not sure if that's because Landorus is just really good at patching the matchups that Sun is kind of inherently weak to, or if as people who were using Sun, you respected Sun an adequate amount when everyone else just kind of didn't respect it enough and realized that Landorus was so good into this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a good mon, and I thought it would be useful in a few matchups, and it was. So, like, the team didn't need anything more in the slot, and it's really hard to, like, it was genuinely very difficult to find a mon that I would want to bring sometimes that wasn't one of the 5 already. And so Landorus honestly just fit that. I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't hit any Sun or Colossal because I would have wanted Landorus to like actually get a match to shine, but it did enough. It did enough in the games that I brought it. Like Stonehenge was surprisingly good. Is I guess all that I have to say aside from that. Like Stonehenge and U-turn were my most clicked moves. Earthquake and Fly are both kind of really mediocre moves, and Landorus got like passively nerfed this gen by just having bad stat moves. Like it's always had bad stat moves, but Earthquake has never felt as bad as it has this gen given Dynamax.
And so what would you say some of the strongest matchups this team had were, and what would you say some of the weaker matchups this team had?
Okay, I guess I'll go to weak matchups first. It can struggle with Amoonguss, definitely. You can break it with Glastrier. You can break it with Torkoal. You can potentially put an Airstream into it if you know that they're not Koba. But the team has a genuine Amoonguss weakness. And part of why I felt comfortable loading the team up for global finals was that there really was not much Amoonguss in the field among the qualifiers. I probably would have opted to use a different team if there had been like 6 or 7 Amoonguss that made it through, or even like 4 or 5 would have strongly pushed me away from the team. But the fact that I didn't have to, I felt like it was unlikely that I queued into Amoonguss just made me way more comfortable loading this up. Let's see, other negative matchups. I guess I have a negative matchup against Celesteela. The team tries to slowly whittle down opposing Mon's HP, and it can blow up stuff like Porygon 2 with Glastrier. Celesteela just has enough defensive stats that it's a really tough out, and I played some really close sets. I thought that my matchup against Celesteela was manageable, if unfavored, but I had enough gas to get through it, and I lost to Celesteela twice. At both of my losses in the tournament were at the hands of one Nar, Don VGC, who had reigned Celesteela, and we played some close sets. He 2-1'd me twice, and I thought that they were both good sets. I would definitely be within my right to get salty about the winning in for top 4, which was broadcast this past Saturday. But it is what it is. He first turned Wake into crit my Torkoal with Flamethrower. I would have timer stalled, but I didn't have enough your time to make it, and so I just had to hope that he didn't roll his 1 in 72. Yeah, it had to be first turn Wake plus crit. So yeah, his 1 in 72, and he hit it. I got a game 2 off of him Dynamaxing Raichu, and game 3 he made some calls on protecting Mons with like protecting his Celesteela or not, and so I couldn't get Glastrier through.
It was really painful to watch. Yeah. But
Like Pokemon happens, so I'm not salty about it, and I got some favorable rolls. I don't. I think I maybe missed like one bind and no other attacks in the entirety of the regional qualifier. So like the game gives and it takes, and so you just it is what it is.
mhm.
Um,
And so I do want to talk about the actual Players Cup North American stage, but first, I also want to touch on a couple things that happened in those 2 weeks leading up because we do have a little bit of bragging to do, right? So this was not the only team that we worked on as a group. We also, I think, together we built the team that Alex Underhill used that got top 8 in North America. But we were doing obviously just a lot of building, a lot of labbing, and you were killing it. You built so many good teams or had a hand in so many good teams. Do you want to talk about some of the other ones?
okay. I'm just scrolling through my builder right now. What else do we want to talk about? There was something called the Anosh Challenge, which was just a challenge I gave to Anosh and gave to other people, where I gave them the core of it was Magnet Regieleki, Choice Band, Single Striker Shifu, AV Cortana, and Citrus Landorus, which was like very comparable to the AV Landorus that I used, like just like a really bulky Landorus. And the challenge was to we think these core of 4 is broken, but we don't know what the last 2 are supposed to be. Figure it out.
I like the Crown Tundra dropped, and the ladder came up on Pokemon Showdown at around like what 1 a.m. Eastern time, and I stayed up until like 3 or 4 a.m. watching you guys ladder, and you'd come up with that in those first 3 hours, and I think you stayed up until like 9 a.m. laddering, and by that time it changed the team completely, but those 4 stayed the same, and you had topped the ladder, and basically stayed atop the ladder for the next week with that team.
Yeah, the one that I was murdering the ladder with, both on Reginald Lucky and Galarian Lynn, it was mostly the Grimmsnarl Venusaur team. The other stuff was also lettering pretty well, but like the best results were absolutely coming from the one that I ended up locking in.
Mhm. And
Um,
then you mentioned Galarian Lynn, and so I have to show this.
it's such a great log.
Yeah, and so this is from. So actually, I do want to shout out Brady real quick because he had a really cool idea in the lead up to this tournament. Everyone's normally very secretive. We're pretty secretive about our team building as well. And Brady did this brand new thing where he just said, open invite Discord server in the lead up to Players Cup. Anyone can join. Anyone can participate. We're going to do a lot of team building and collaboration. And then in the actual, like I think 5 or 6 days before the tournament, where I'm going to like kind of have a smaller group that we're going to actually like polish off this team. I don't think anyone in that group actually made it through. There were a few people who did pretty well.
Zelda was very close. He got crit out and probably, if you ask him, he definitely should have made it. Like Pokemon is Pokemon, but he got very close. I think he was the most successful person out of the group.
Yeah, and it was just really cool to see someone completely
Just
like
make their own. We've like affectionately referred to it as the Brady Bunch. But yeah, just to make your own testing group is relatively unprecedented. Usually they are like longer term and slower built, and so just to put himself on it like on the map, it was pretty cool to see from the outside. I wasn't in it, but like props to him. Brady's a
yeah.
cool guy.
And I did join the server, and I told him that I wasn't going to participate a ton because I had other people I was working with, and was also just generally very busy in the lead up to this tournament. And I didn't actually even see this log. Someone else shared it with us, but it was really funny because this was, of course, one of your alts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was like both really cool to see it, and also when I saw that message, I just kind of immediately shot down the lettering on that alt, and it also was kind of a warning that okay, fun. Like I've had my fun. The team very clearly still works. At least for like this was still only like it was definitely less than a week into the format being announced and the letter being up. But like it was clear that the team was at least very good into collections of mons that were one power, like that were power creeped a little bit, that were one power level up. And so I took that as a signal that I would continue to try to build stuff, but my fallback plan was reliable and I could rely on it. So yeah, it was nice to see.
Yeah,
it was also just fun from like an egotistical perspective, but
yeah, definitely. We were trying to figure out what the most ridiculous thing we could plausibly put in like a one-off public replay was. I don't think we ever actually did it, but
yeah, no, that brings back a memory of early Sun series. We had an alt at the top of the ladder, and so Inosh wanted to play one game with I think he ended up using Dialga or something, just so people would think that got to the top of the ladder, and he managed to win that game. And so that is like anyone who was trying to scout ladder replays was just going to see that Dialga was at the top of the ladder. Dialga was very not that good in Sun Series. We were just spamming like early iterations of Venus Zerndon, but yeah.
It was especially not good into Venus Zerndon, I guess.
Venus Zerndon trash Dialga. It does not resist Restless Blade, sorry. Yeah.
That, on a completely unrelated note, that was what I was planning on bringing to Philadelphia Regionals, and then you guys tore up the ladder with Zerndon, and I was like, I can't do that anymore, damn it. But yeah, and like I know Vichy in 2020 topped the ladder, like played the last game to top the ladder with a 5 Pikachu clone team as well, and so I guess that's just a word of warning to like not take. There's some sites, I think Babiri.net scrapes the top teams on the ladder or the public replays. Take that with a grain of salt, because people like know that they are near the top of the ladder and are not keeping any replays public unless they want to make them public, and usually that means they're not a team that they want to like. It's a team
especially after PS implemented the button that just auto auto hides your game. It's just very tough to reliably get information from ladder replays. There still are some people that don't hide their games, but yeah, it's take it with the entire salt shaker.
Yeah, and so with that being said, can you tell me a little bit about? Can you like summarize your performance in the North American stage of the Players' Cup?
Sure. So as we mentioned, I had a bye. I played pretty much just a bunch of Finny stuff all the way through. I think every team that I played against, or almost every team, had a Finny, and which was like we mentioned, it had like 65% usage or something stupid in the NA bracket, and it wasn't that much lower in the rest of the world. Finny was just stupid common early on, and so the team was just like, honestly, it was playing a bunch of early meta teams that weren't just like as inherently powerful as the team that I had, because mine had like months and months of prep put into it, and it's tough to compete with that when you're playing an early meta tournament. I guess I can sidebar and say that that's just a generally pretty strong way to play Players' Cup tournaments. Gavin also did that for Players' Cup 1. He just rolled up to Series 5 with a Series 4 team, and he got 9th place in the tournament playing Clef Diggersby Sylveon. And it was just like he was playing into Cinderace type stuff and just winning because his team fit together really well. So it's a surprising take. Generally, I think that using the stronger mons is like good, but the power levels haven't gone up as much as we've been used to in VGC formats in the past. Like the jump from 2017 to 2018 dropped so many Pokemon, and it was a massive power spike. So everything was completely outclassed, and that is true once the format is developed. But given that Players' Cups are so early into a format, you can get away with it more easily than we could in past years. And so that's just an interesting takeaway.
Yeah, and comfort is so important when you're doing well with a team, and knowing that
comfort is
your
so
play style.
important. One of the things I said to myself before the regionals was that I don't think I'm going to have the best team in the tournament. I think I'm going to have like a top 5% team, and I think I'm going to be way more comfortable on my top 5% team than anyone with a better team than me. And so it was the best call that I could personally make.
Yeah, and it worked out really well. Obviously, you went undefeated in the North American stage. I think that going into top 16, you told me that, or you tweeted that you lost one game because you got crit and then you didn't drop another game the entire run.
Yeah, no, that's not it. I mean, it was literally true. I think my phrasing was, yeah, I got crit in one game and won the others. Like there were definitely games that were losable, and I like played my way out of it. The one that comes to mind from the first week was Martin Gaidosh. I beat him 2-1, and I was. It's been so long, and the games weren't recorded, so it is still kind of fuzzy. But I just remember that set being really close, and I felt fortunate to have escaped. Like, not fortunate in that the game wanted me to win and I got like lucky, just fortunate in that it was a really close set. From the second weekend, I can talk about both of those sets. The winner's top 8 was against Chemo. Chemo got a really, really bad beat, and I feel bad for him. He got a game loss in game 1 due to having something like just a team sheet error. I think he wrote one of the stats wrong or something, and they let him keep them on, but he got a game loss. And game 2, I crit his Porygon 2 with close combat from Glastrier, which put it in rain. Like I think it was at like 85, and it did, or it might have been, I don't know. The move crit, and then the next one killed because I got the crit on the turn before. And it was a really bad matchup for me. I was definitely losing the game 2 without the crit, and so that was probably my big break that I got. Was I beat Chemo maybe like 20 to 30% of the time. It just was a really bad matchup. Metagross stuff can also be annoying for the team.
His team was really cool. It was, I think, the best performing Metagross team in North America, and like it's really unfortunate that he had the bad break like that. And if you want to check out his team, I think it's on Colin's the Battle Rooms YouTube channel, and so I would recommend checking that out since it is a very cool team.
Those guys are both homies.
Yeah, they're both great. And of course, Raghav also, like, I think, built most of that team, and so he has his hand in basically every good team that's built basically ever.
Having friends is broken. The set against Bingji, it was broadcast. I think it was a really excellent set, and you can watch that. I was in game 1. The one play that sticks out to me is I hit into the Kartana instead of the Clefairy. I think that my position was winnable if I max held the Clefairy on that turn, and I just didn't, and the game ended because Clefairy is a good Pokemon. Game 2, I think I just called him on team preview and got a good position, and like kind of cruised from there. I don't remember that game too well. Game 3, I just decided that he had led Clefairy Shifu games 1 and 2, and he was going to Helping Hand Wicked Blow my Venusaur if I led Grimmsnarl Venusaur, and so I was just going to hard call him. And I was going to lead Grimvenu and Max Guard on his Helping Hand Wicked Blow and get the Spirit Break into the Grimmsnarl to put it in KO range from turn of Vine Lash, and I did it, and it worked. And the game was very. His team is pretty cool. but it's like a really tempo focused team, and going for a helping hand wicked blow and having that damage just whiff is not something that his team can come back from. One other thing that I'm really proud about in that game is that I didn't set up Reflect because I successfully called its adaptation that he would have Urshifu and then Nihilego run him in the back. And so Reflect would just be pointless. I'm just really proud of how I played that game.
Yeah, and like you said, that game was streamed on the Pokemon YouTube channel and Pokemon Twitch channel, so you can watch that.
Really excellent set. I'm glad that one was streamed and like broadcasted, and it was the best set just from like a game quality perspective that I probably that I played definitely in the regionals and also probably including the globals. Like it was just a really sick set. Bingji also played well.
Yeah, and Bingji just, obviously actually made it to Players Cup Finals. I think he also got all the way to top 6 overall. And so he used a team that is basically the polar opposite of your team in terms of how it plays. And this is the style of team that he is known for using, and just piloted it so well.
And he pilots it so smoothly. Like being able to play offense while just it's so big brain because you just have to sequence your games, and even building good offense is very tricky. You just have to know that what you're bringing is going to be good. And I guess it's not especially hard to build offense. It's hard to build offense and then perform consistently well with it. Dingji, Andrew Ding, and Bingji Wang, they have something really special going on, and props to them.
Yeah, Andrew Ding got top 8 in the last Players Cup in North America. I knocked him out of that one, and then he made it all the way through losers bracket. He lost round 1, and then made it all the way to top 6, and then lost to Bingji in a mirror match, which is really heartbreaking. But like that is crazy. I think he won more games than anyone else in that tournament. So
Andrew Ding won more sets of Pokemon in Players Cup 2 than I did, and I won I won 8 games of Pokemon in Players Cup 2. Like, I think this is the point of the video where I rant about how stupid double elimination is. I hate the format. So losers bracket just progresses at half the pace of winners bracket. You have to play twice as many games to get through losers as winners. Or another way to put it is like every win that you win in winners is worth 2 wins in losers. Like the way that Pokemon works, you just have to lock in a team for the whole tournament, and if you hit a bad matchup early on, you are doomed to being forced to make a loser's run. And it's less bad in games like Smash, where I don't want to denigrate my game but I think the better player wins more often in fighting games than Pokemon. I don't think that's too outlandish to say. And it just it also feels terrible and to get put in losers, and I'm not sure why we're not playing Swiss for these tournaments.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, it made sense to me for the first iteration where they were split up into 3 weekends rather than 2, but this time they essentially played 9 rounds in the first week, because they played 1 round of winners, and then at least like Andrew Ding played 8 rounds of losers, so 9 rounds total. And at a 256 player regional, I believe you just play 9 rounds of Swiss anyways.
And then you'd be in the cut. But yeah.
Right. And then you'd cut the top 16, which is exactly the same as what would have happened here. And so like I feel like that would have just been so much more reasonable.
And instead I had a buy through round 1, and then I went 4-0 on day 1. And then I went 2-0 on day 2. And so I went 6-0 and made it through the tournament, and Andrew Ding went 10-1. And I'm very comfortable saying that 10-1 is a more impressive record than 6-0. The fact that you get punished so hard for losing early it's just stupid, and we need to fix the format for these tournaments. I love that the tournaments exist. I also think they could be more frequent, but I'm not going to nitpick too hard on that. But double elimination has no place in Pokemon.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, so you did manage to go, of course, undefeated. You did win all of your 6 matches, and you can only really play what's put in front of you. Can you tell me about the lead up? You had I think 3 weeks or so before you had to play in the global stage of Players Cup. Can you tell me a little bit about how those couple of weeks went for you?
Sure. So the first thing that we figured out, we looked at some of the data from VGC in the time frame around Players Cup, and some mons that jumped out were Water Urshifu leaped off the page as one of the mons to use. Some other mons that we liked were Spectrier. Amoonguss was the Water Urshifu. Amoonguss was the next big one. Basically, just pull up the team. So this is Team Big Data. Amoonguss, Urshifu were phenomenal performers. Porygon 2, Glastrier, and Grimmsnarl. They were just mons that the stats loved, and so they also happened to form a pretty synergistic team together. And Charizard was inspired partly from it had pretty good stats, but it also was inspired from the Venusaur Grimmsnarl, and I felt that just setting up Gmax chip, whether it's Wild Grass or Wildfire, was very good when you had screens up. And so this was one of the teams that I was considering. It has a pretty similar structure to the team that I qualified with. It just was using some different mons. Surging Strike Urshifu still probably very nutty in the format. Amoonguss, all the mons are nutty. Just basically, I didn't have enough testing time after we put this together to feel confident locking it in. It is probably pretty okay. It just wasn't as battle tested as the other team.
This is actually very similar to the team that Gavin Michaels used to get second place in the Zelda Tour last weekend as well. But I think he actually started out with, when we were originally testing his team, I think he started out with this and adapted it. One of the things that we noticed was Azumarill was actually the one of the top performing Pokemon in North America. The only person who used it was Elisa, our friend, and she got she went 5-2. I think she lost round 1 and had to try to pull it back and almost made it to top 16 in North America. And then also a European player got to top 16 in Europe with a very different Azumarill.
Parasong Azu, it was kind of cool. On Colossal, Sapsipper, and it's nominally a water type, but it counts.
Mm-hmm. And so I think the lesson that I took away from that overachieving, and then Dawn making it, or sorry, Juan Nar, Dawn VGC making it to Players Cup with a Politoed Kingdra team, that water types that weren't Tapu Fini were real Pokemon, and people weren't necessarily accounting for those, and especially and we needed to strongly consider water types that weren't Tapu Fini because people weren't respecting them.
Yeah, they were just slept on, that's basically it. If you were water type and you weren't Tapu Fini, you were probably a good bring to the regional qualifiers, and so looking for mons like that, basically just having a good reason to use a water type on your team that wasn't Fini was something that we tried to do, tried to build with.
Mm-hmm. And so actually on this channel, we have another team report from a player who got top 6 in Europe with a water Urshifu. And so I definitely took a lot of inspiration from that. And so we built one other team that was largely based on the Pokemon that we thought were good based on the data. And Rajan really wanted to use Spectrier. So we decided we were going to try to build around that. And so the 3 of us built a very cool team.
I think this team is sick. One of the first things that sticks out, like there are a bunch of interesting things going on here, but my favorite set on the team is the Seed Bomb Amoonguss. I genuinely think that that's just it might be Amoongus's best set in this format because Seed Bomb, it just punches through Tapu Fini, doesn't care about Calm Mind boosts, and it gets to spore things if they don't have a Fini. And so it's just a really strong set. Some like just try it out. It's genuinely very good. On this team in particular, it's very nice because it Spectre drops defenses with Max Phantasm, and it can get Max Knuckle boosts. And Max Knuckling for Amoonguss is both very funny and also really spooky because you can just like a lot of the things that want to sit in front of Max Knuckle from Spectre or really don't want to sit in front of Koba Amoonguss, like flying types. They already don't like Glastrier, but like Dusclops, you just spore it and it has a bad time. It's the team has a lot of synergy, and I really like how it came together. Spectre is really sick here. Hyper Beam, excellent move on the Mon. We built the team wanting to use Modest Life Orb Spectre because it just wipes Dusclops. It clicks the nuke button and Dusclops goes away. Like even specially defensive Dusclops just bites the dust. If you have some stuff, like you've definitely used this team, so if you want to say some stuff about it.
Yeah, I think that, so one of the things we noticed immediately was that Red Geology, Spectrier, and Urshifu formed a really, really strong core together. It's got second place in the Italian GameStop tour that had like a Regigigas core on it, but like what we really took away was that those three were really, really strong together. And so we really started building around that. The Amoonguss set was like another example of how we kind of thought outside the box, and just because everyone in the past had used Special Amoonguss doesn't mean that you have to use Special Amoonguss. And in this case, we reevaluated what Amoonguss's role had to do, and it just was better as a physical Pokemon, especially on this team where you give it Phantasm drops and attack boosts.
So yeah, no, the classic quote is Amoonguss has a higher attack stat than Talonflame, but Talonflame is still a good physical attacker. So why isn't Amoonguss?
Yeah.
And then, of course, like it's had 10 years of being a Pokemon and hasn't been able to run physical moves until this format, and it's just cool to see this development.
Yeah, and then we also I think that we didn't have Colossal on the team until pretty late, and our reason, like we had a couple weak matchups that we thought Colossal helped fix, namely like the Sun matchup. We felt Colossal was really good in, but also Colossal was just like a Pokemon that people weren't prepared for. Like it obviously won Players Cup, so people will probably be more prepared for it in the future. But it like Wolf also realized that it was a Pokemon that people weren't prepared for, and it was really good. And we had an Water Urshifu on the team already, so we didn't have to commit 2 slots to using it. We just had to commit 1.
Yes.
And especially in a best of 3, you don't have to commit to doing this. You don't have to commit to Colossal in your opponent every game. Sometimes people are just so weak to it, you can, but other times you just mix it up and you bring it game 3 or game 2 after your opponent realizes that you didn't bring it game 1, but they led like their ground type and their water type game 1. So Colossal was just like really, really good. And then of course it won Players Cup and also won the Zelda Tour last week. And so people, I guess, have figured out that it's really good now.
Yeah, during the we said about the team that it was the first team that had ever put the Colossal on the team after the Water Urshifu. It patched Sun, which the team wanted help with. Basically, it was just really convenient that we happened to have like a really strong focal point for the team that didn't need one. Just like it could have a like dominant mode that it could go to, but it was designed to work without it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another team that I strongly considered bringing it, but I ended up passing on it because I thought that my team's matchup spreads into the expected field was pretty good, or it was pretty good. So
Yeah, and so I brought this team to the Hexa Cup a couple weeks ago and got top 4 in that, and I recorded all my games, and so you can watch that on the Ice House YouTube channel, which I guess I'll link in the description too. And then I actually lost to the eventual winner of that tournament, who was also using Regieleki, Spectre, or Urshifu water. And so I think we just had a lot of ideas that were just very, very good into the metagame at that time. And then I think at this point, 2 weeks later, everyone has figured out all of those ideas. But I guess we were like ahead of the curve by a week, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then, so of course, you did end up bringing 2 Players Cup finals, a variant of the team that you had been using for the last 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, what changes did you make, and why did you make them?
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it's fair to call it a variant. That a variant implies that there was a lot of change. I changed one spread and I changed one move. I put Protect on Grimmsnarl because the team in its earlier version was weak to specifically Grimmsnarl getting faked out before it could set up a screen on turn 1, and then just getting wiped out. The team has a really bad time if it doesn't get screens up. You can play games with it, but you have to. It's rough, and so Protect allowed it to just safely get up the first screen, and getting the first screen up generally allows it to get up the second screen. The spread that I changed was Torkoal's. It used to be max defense, and I decided it was time for it to grow up and actually put the points in places where they were supposed to be. And so I just split the EVs into the lower stats because of efficiency reasons. Basically, it's more efficient to put your EVs in the lower stats. And it got some special attack and some stuff. The speed tiers on the Mons. Torkoal is faster than Dusclops, which is intentional. Generally, you want to be able to pain split things before Torkoal deals damage to them in Trick Room, and that's just the important interaction. And it's also nice to have Dusclops outspeed opposing Dusclops because you force them to set up Trick Room if they want to go first. And so you just get to Nightshade before they Nightshade you, and you just get an extra tempo out of that from them having the set TR.
Can you tell me a little bit about your run in the Players Cup global stage? I know most of your matches were streamed, but if there's anything that you really want to highlight, especially now's your time to.
Sure. So my winners round 1 was against Wannar Don. Don had Rain with an Entei, a Raichu, and a Celesteela. And there was also a Rillaboom, which he didn't bring to any of the 6 games I played against him. He 2-1'd me twice. Spoilers. His matchup was favorable because Celesteela is a tough out for my team, so I have to tempo it out, but I'm inherently a team that doesn't want to tempo too aggressively because the team is still not really stable enough if screens don't go up. So I have to play my long-term value game, but play it really fast. And that is just inherently an awkward thing to do. And so I managed to get a game off him in both sets, and probably could have gotten another game off of him in the second time around. The first time around, I didn't really appreciate how annoying the Celesteela was going to be, and I kind of overlooked it. And so I think I just got rolled in game 1 trying to force my mode through, just Grimmsnarl, Dusclops, Ice Horse. Game 2, I probably just made a mix-up or did something. And game 3, I think I played it pretty well, but there was one turn that I could have done something, and it would have given. I think it was I think I probably just Grimmsnarl, and I was supposed to max guard on the turn that I didn't. And just that one tempo was enough to take away my margins for that game. I really did not have very big margins, and I flubbed a turn there.
And like we were just talking about, you went from we were talking about how much more difficult it is to run through a double elimination tournament in losers. Little more manageable in a 16-person tournament, but it really sucks to lose round 1 because now you have to play twice as many games.
Yeah. My round 2 against Kutesh was streamed. Basically, Reggie Drago was not brought in the regionals for. I don't want to be too rude, but it was not brought for a reason. He actually didn't run into any. I don't know if his round 1 was against Finney. I don't have Finney, and Reggie Drago is genuinely a pretty good matchup into me. I just have to hunker down behind light screen and hope that my position doesn't get destabilized. I achieved that in game 1 and 3. Game 2 was a complete bloodbath. I just got absolutely wiped. He got his Reggie Drago. I got caught out slightly, and Reggie Drago took 2 kills with Dragon Energy, and the game ended. And genuinely watch that game if you want to see the team. My team fall apart. It does happen sometimes.
I imagine that if you can't, like you said, if you can't stabilize, if you can't, get your tempo with Trick Room, if you can't get your screens up to do some damage mitigation, it's very easy for your, once the first domino falls, if it falls too early, it's probably pretty easy to just start getting run over.
Yeah. And David played well. I just, I think I got him in game 3. The set against Agati, basically just, it was awkward for him to deal with some of my stuff. He played well. He had Icicle Spear on Glastrier, and I know that he got an important 2-hit Icicle Spear. For those who don't know, it's a 1/3 chance to roll 2 hits, 1/3 chance to roll 3 hits, and then 1/6 chance to roll 4 or 5. And he missed killing my Dusclops by a sliver or something, I think. And so I got to get a move off, and just that was enough. And so I escaped my set against Agati 2-0. It could have been a lot more dangerous. He's a phenomenal player, obviously. That one wasn't streamed. My next set against who was my next setting against? That was just the set against Fede. That one was streamed. It was just kind of whitewash. It just blew him out in game 1 and then blew him out in game 2. Basically, I correctly called his plays, and his matchup wasn't great, and I punished him really hard and just locked him out of the game. I know that in game 1, he switched his Finny into a Vine Lash, and it was just he couldn't come back from that. In game 2, he led Raichu Moltres and tried to into my Grimmsnarl last year, protecting Moltres, trying to get it its weakness policy, and he charmed my Glastier's Lighter so that he could charm it again next turn. And I just killed the Raichu with Max Ice Fall through Focus Sash, and killed Moltres turn 2 with Spirit Break Ice Fall, and it was just it was over because he went for a hard read turn 1, and I punished it extremely hard, and I'm proud of that one. And it's not trying to be rude to him as a player, just he got caught, and that's how it was. And good players can get caught. My final set against Don, we've talked about. It's a tough matchup. I figured out some lines. Before the set, I figured out how I could win a game 1, and I was going to go from there and play. He decided to max the Raichu in game 2, which I probably disagree with, but Jan Torkoal was really annoying for him in the game 1, so I understand why he did it, and I got that game. And then game 3, he decided to not do silly stuff. I'm not sure if he would have given me the game 2 had I won game 1, or given to me in the same sense. I know in game 3, I led something that would have been really nice if he had into him leading Rain, and he just didn't have Rain in the lead, and I got really sad, basically, is what happened. I thought the matchup was negative enough that I was supposed to hard calls lead, and I called wrong. And so that was my tournament.
Yeah, and, that's so brutal because not only, we talked about how the ending, was such a unlucky ending, but also to have to face the same negative matchup twice. That only can really happen in this double elimination format. And you literally beat every single player that you played against that wasn't exactly 1R.
Yep. Yeah,
So
I did.
that speaks a lot to the strength of this team. It's a really strong team, and you just had a really impressive run. And after 5 or 6 months of development, I'm really glad that we can finally share this really cool team.
The team is pretty much retired at this point. Like it's had its spotlight, it's had its moment in the sun, and this is definitely going to go down as one of my all-time favorite PGC teams, and I'm glad that it got to go on the big stage.
Yeah. And so, of course, as always, there was a full paste in the description of all 3 versions of the team. You can pick your favorite, also a rental code. I would suggest changing the Dusclops from Pressure to Frisk if you are planning on laddering with it.
I wanted to talk about this. Like, definitely change Pressure to Frisk. It's just Pressure is like ever so slightly better than Frisk, but it's still a pretty useless ability. For other changes that you should make to the team, Grimmsnarl probably shouldn't have Protect if you're not specifically playing a closed team sheet, an open team sheet format. Protect is not really that great. It's just that people can punish you if they don't know you have it, and they can see the rest of your team. And specifically, I only wanted it for finals because I thought people might have put in thought on how they were planning to beat the team. Some good options. Burning Jealousy was the original one. Taunt is a pretty okay option. Fake Tears is viable. It's what the Series 5 team had. I don't think it's especially great. So another player in Players Cup Globals had Scary Face Grimmsnarl. I haven't tried that, but it's interesting. Basically, have some fun with the move slot. You can do a lot of stuff with it. Taunt is the main one that I would look toward, though. It can stop enemies from doing silly things.
Yeah, and so there you have it. Again, I think this is one of the coolest, definitely the most innovative team that I've seen, not only in Series 7, but also in Series 5. And so I really recommend that you check it out, try it out for yourself. And Nick, thank you so much for sharing it, for coming on and explaining all of the building process and the rationale, and you're talking through your incredible run. Do you have any shout outs you want to give?
It's been a pleasure having me on or being on here. Shout outs first and foremost to the Tub. Love you guys. It's great working with you, and we did great things, and I'm proud of what we did for both of the Players Cups, not just the one where I did well. Shout out to my parents, of course. You guys are the best. Shout outs to Garden of Madness, which was the account that we stole, got inspired from. We definitely ripped the main core of the team, and then built our own version of it. Who else do we shout out? I'm not thinking of anybody. There's probably people. Sorry if I missed you.
Again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. And you can also follow Nick on socials, which will be in the description. He goes by NailsOU online. He's my
Twitter DMs are open, and I'm generally pretty secretive about teams, but this one's burned and out in the wild, and so I'll generally be able to answer questions about it.
And if you want to watch some gameplay of the team, not only are they the official Players Cup streams, but also we will be doing a live stream with a really cool format with not only Nails, but also Donald Smith Jr., who also made it to Players Cup finals, and hopefully a few other players who did very well in Players Cup to showcase all of their teams in a brand new format. So make sure to subscribe and don't miss a single thing.
That video is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to take part in it.
Okay. Yeah. And so thank you so much for coming out, and I'll catch you all later.
Peace.